Hi guys, my name is Jared and I'm an alcoholic. And I'm extremely self-obsessed and anxious and fearful. So it feels like I'm about to have a heart attack, but God's in control, and my message today is hopefully about hope, from a hopeless state of mind, and that's exactly where I was 2 years ago. I was at a point in my life where there was no going back, or no coming right. I was just completely, I had no more hope left in me, and my alcoholism and everything that came with it got me to a point where my life was completely controlled by my disease of alcoholism. So it took a long time to start eating away at me and the true me, and got me to a point where I was pretty much flat on my face and completely hopeless. But at the same time, I was completely desperate, and I believe that I was ready to surrender to a solution, and I was introduced to these steps many years ago by other people in this fellowship, and I was too cocksure and arrogant, and I had all the answers, and I had all the differences, and I could compare my story with everybody else's and make mine a whole lot worse than everybody else, and compare. And through all of those comparisons and looking for the differences and not the similarities, it kept me sick for another 20 years, in and out of the program, in and out, in and out, in and out, not working the steps, not looking through the big book, not listening to suggestions. Everyone was wrong but me. I was right. It was Jared's way. My way was the only way. And I would do whatever I had to do and hurt whoever I had to hurt to get what I wanted. And that, to me, later I understood that was my disease of alcoholism. My selfish, self-centered behavior, self-obsessed behavior. But I believe that everybody's story is the same, My story is the same as anybody else's, because my disease is the same as everybody else in these chairs. And I believe that everybody that's sitting here, just like I did back then, I couldn't look for differences because there were just too many similarities in my behavior and my way of thinking. The substances didn't matter. The level of pain didn't matter, because I believe that pain is pain, and everybody's personal pain is their pain, and I can't compare pain because my pain was different to your pain, and it's exactly the same, and our pain got us into this room, and that's what's the same, and all looking for that glimmer of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's what I needed. And I was willing to do what it takes, I was willing to let go of my son, to let go of my marriage, to let go of my family, to let go of any idea of employment or career. Not that I was even employable by the time I walked into these rooms. I was completely insane. I still am insane, maybe 50-60% of the day in recovery. But now I have a program, that 12-step program in that book, that has taught me how to change my behavior to a point where I don't need to find relief in a substance or in a bottle or in somebody or something. And that's the hope that I needed. The hope that I needed was that surrender of all that fear and that anxiety and that self-obsession and that wanting to get something to feel better idea out of my head. And it's funny, a guy that owns the treatment center that I went to, I was fortunate enough to go to a treatment center to clean up, and get the tools of these steps and this big book, and to teach me how to live life in sobriety outside in the real world, And he mentioned in one of his shares at a meeting, he said, always thought, this coming out, they're going to brainwash me. And I used to have that same mentality too, it's just going to brainwash me into this sect and this cult. And he said, well, our brains need a good brainwashing, But my brain was completely dirty, full of filth, perversion, lust, chasing material gain, chasing women, chasing every little bit of high that I could get, to feed my disease. Because I had that hollowness in my soul, I couldn't fathom what it was, but I tried everything to fill it, with short little spurts of sort of like a little bit full and then empty straight away, and I'd have to go to the next thing, and it just progressed because that hole just became fuller and fuller. So I needed to go get my brain washed. And there's a 12-step cycle on my washing machine. First, I need to soak in the powerlessness and that unmanageability of my life, because the stains were so stark on my jersey that the moths had eaten it up already, and it was covered in blood. And so that had to soak in step one, I had to admit that I was powerless and my life was completely unmanageable. And it was purely unmanageable because I was trying to manage it. And then the rest of the steps, step 2 and 3 was my washing machine, my washing detergent, my detergent and my Stay Soft. It was going to clean me out, and know that there's something greater than me, that's purer than me, and that is stronger than me and my unmanageability and my powerlessness, that can start working in my life and start washing my heart and start washing my brain, and knowing that I don't have the right detergents for my life, and I call that God, good orderly direction. And I didn't even have a concept of God in the beginning, but I was willing to have a concept of God, because the concept that I had grown in every other aspect of my life has failed me miserably. So that thought of God, I was willing to go that way, and that thought of seeing everybody else that was saying, listen, this is what you need to do, and I have an understanding of God now, and this program has filled that hole for me, that hollow emptiness in my soul, with this program, and given them an understanding of God. So I was willing to believe that. And all the rest was cleaning out. Rinse and wash and rinse and wash, and look at the powerlessness, look at the hurt, look at the guilt, look at the shame, look at failed relationships, seeing my part in resentments towards society and the world, and it was always the government, it was always the Illuminati, it was always my parents, it was always schools and institutions and banks. It was funny, they were all my best friend when I needed them, but when it didn't go my way, they were my resentments, and kept me sick for many, many years, and almost took me out. Took my wife out in this disease, who I had left because of the toxicity of my relationship, meeting a woman in rehab, that's the one doomed for failure, thinking getting married and having a child will fix everything. Worked for about 10 months, had the baby, didn't know what to do with myself, and I relapsed. And used all those things and used those people in my life to sort of like justify and look for excuses and look for justifiable resentments of you controlling me and don't tell me what to do and you're the reason why I drink. So just another like pawn in my game, and how selfish and self-centered is that? And my wife died to this disease, and a year ago in August. Through resentments and through doing it her way, But also the ultimate example of what this disease is designed to do, and that's to kill us, to take us out and destroy the families around us, So I knew that, because I'd been around long enough to start seeing like I don't have any friends anymore. They're either in prison or they're dead or they've lost their minds. Jails, institutions, and dead. And so, yeah, I'd pretty much lost my mind. I'd been to prison a couple of times and I was almost like dead. So there was either that or this. And thank God it's a miracle that I chose this. Because I'd never ever made the right decision before. And the only thing that made me reach that decision was conceding complete defeat and reaching a point of no return where I'm either going to die or I need to live. And I need to learn how to live in a different way than the way that I've been living. And I've tried everything else. I've tried medication, I've tried gurus, I've tried religions, I've tried psychology, I've tried everything, sports, steroids, bodybuilding, all of that crap, relationships, careers, none of that worked. This is the only thing that's ever worked for me, and I thank God today that the people that were in my life at that time to guide me through this were there, because I can never ever change that, and I never ever now, 2 years down the line, I don't want to ever change any experience that I've ever had in my past. I don't regret my past anymore, and I'll never shut the door on it, because that is all I have. And all I have is that hope now from that hopeless state of mind in my past. And what I've learned from people in this fellowship and how I've stayed sober through that, and through following those suggestions to the best of my ability. And I worked those steps, and I exposed myself to my sponsor at the time, and with my step 5, and not even knowing if it was reality or not reality, because my mind had become so sick and distorted that I let so much out, and I also magnified so much of the little stuff, that junkie pride and that ego, and that was all there in the beginning, working my steps. But I worked them to the best of my ability. That's why it's a recurring thing for me every day. No concept of God when I left treatment. Well, concept of hope. So hope to me was God, Arrogance would still creep up. Expectations would still creep up. But I did a humble job. I earned minimum wage. Realizing, that I don't have all those things I used to have before. I'm not that person I used to be anymore. I'm this 30-plus guy, almost 40, alcoholic, that has lost everything and that has no entitlement to anything on earth. But I got that glimmer of hope from my sponsor, and he said to me, just get up and show up and be on time, and do what you have to do, Jared, and do it to the best of your ability, and share at meetings, and get stuck in service, and be willing and be selfless, be there for people, just like you, because that will keep you sober. It's not the job, it's not the money, it's not getting your son back, it's not the guilt and shame through your separation of your marriage, it's not getting my dad's approval back or anything like that. It's about helping others and doing God's work, because when I got to the final stage of when I finished my 12-step in theory, that spiritual awakening I had was not lightning bolts shooting out of my butt. It was me coming to that realization that if I help others, I'll stay sober. And that's the program, how I understood it when I completed that, and when I started living life, and I started seeing living life in sobriety, and I started seeing how that was keeping me sober. And I couldn't stay sober for 2 minutes, 2 hours, never mind 2 years. And these last 2 years have been amazing. They've been challenging. I lost my stepbrother, my wife, who I'd already separated with, but we were still married. My son's mother, and my dad, all in my first year of of recovery. And in those times, that's when I started understanding God. That's when I started realizing that God is really there, because I stayed sober and I kept on doing what I had to do and following those suggestions from my sponsor and having that support and reaching out and exposing myself and being vulnerable and allowing myself to go through life on life's terms and not letting that overcome me and not making it about me and not making that about my journey. That was their journey. That wasn't my journey. Yes, I'm a part of it, but that doesn't control me anymore. Nothing in this world controls me anymore but the God of my understanding and the suggestions that I follow and this 12-step program. You know, as long as I follow that way, I know I have nothing to fear. So now I wake up less fearful every morning because I get down on my knees and I pray to that God that's got me through all those challenges and that got me through my early stages of recovery, and it's still early, you know. And every day I'm alcoholic. It doesn't matter how much time I have behind me. I wake up alcoholic every day with this disease of alcoholism, and I need to work my program every day to the best of my ability, like from day one. And having a better understanding through life on life's terms every day I have less of an excuse to go back to my old behavior. So, and the rewards that come from it, and the hope that I always wanted, and the things that I always thought that would make me happy and make me feel full. When I put those things to the side, and I made this my life and helping others my primary purpose, God gave me all those things slowly but surely. Slowly but surely gave me my son back. Slowly but surely I started making more money. Slowly but surely I found love. I thought I'd never found love again in my life. I said, I'll never, ever get in a relationship again. I'll never. And my first year was hard. Those urges start coming and affirmation from people and, ooh, I love that, you know. And geez, I can get my head back into the soak again, on long soak, and that t-shirt starts getting a little bit scratched there, and I start getting a loose thread, and my sponsor says, whoa, you go down that road, my boy, you're going to see your ass. You don't have any more excuses. You're at the end of the line. You don't have any time left to make mistakes, you know. And I had to listen, and as painful as it can be and consequential it can be, I need to block that stuff. And I hurt people when I do that. I hurt people when I run on my own steam and I don't expose myself. And I turn away from my old ideas through my help of my sponsor, calling me out and following suggestions from people, shares and meetings and sharing, you know. And putting that on the back burner and putting God first. And God to me is helping others and getting stuck into this program. And God gave me those responsibilities in life again. He's given me a wonderful relationship with my new partner. A beautiful home that we're making look lovely together. A beautiful family. My son plus another 1.5 children. You know, if that's not God saying to me, Jared, you know, hopeless state of mind to like, life is so busy now, I don't even know what to do with myself, you know, and I'm doing flick-flack saying, God, you know, thank you for this program, you know, thank you that I have all this in abundance in my life and that I have friends that have been my friends for the last 2 years, you know. Darren shared a nice thing at a prison service the other day, and it threw sparks in my head for me, you know. For the last 2 years, I haven't been arrested. I haven't been to jail. I haven't appeared in court. I don't have pending cases. I'm not running from the law. I'm not running from my family. They rely on me for certain things. That's in 2 years. I mean, it's definitely not me, because I'm just a taker. I would take everybody for everything they have, and whatever the consequences is, I'll deal with it, you know, and they must deal with it. To a point where now I have God in this program has restored hope into my life and keeps on restoring hope into my life. And I don't have to be a gangster. I don't have to be this arrogant, ego-fed person anymore. And when it comes up that I'll get humiliated very quickly. I humiliate myself. I step out of line and I humiliate myself. And that brings me back to humility and gratitude again very quickly. And the program has an awesome way of doing that, And for all the newcomers, hopeless, broken, desperate is the best place to be right now. I know that sometimes it's such a cloudy mess, and that's because it's in the soaking stage. Everything's soaking, and it feels like I'm drowning. I'm drowning in self. I'm drowning in guilt and shame. I'm drowning in resentments. I'm drowning in all the consequences of my alcoholism. But I can guarantee you that hurdle that I was never be able to. I was never be able to cross that hurdle, get over that hurdle. And Caleb always said to me, "Bro, you haven't seen what's over that hurdle yet. Just get over there. I wish I could show you what's on the other side, because you would flip and jump that hurdle." And I always wanted to go around the hurdle or turn around and say, "No, I'd rather do the 100-meter sprint. I don't want to do hurdles, And when I get to those hurdles, I look back and I think, "Geez, but that hurdle was only that high. Why did it look so high to me when I was on this side?" And when I got on that side, it was like, wow, hope, green grass, figuratively speaking. Love, unconditional love, saving people's lives, giving a message of hope. That to me is without parallel, and that to me is nothing short of a miracle. And that to me shows me that God is real, and that God works through people. And Bill and Bob, back in the day, on the 10th of June in 1935, I think, compiled this book and saved countless lives, and gave that message of hope, and they shared their story of hope, and it continues to grow continuously. And I cannot deny that this is my solution, and this is my only solution. And this has given me the understanding of God, and it's filled that void in my soul. Every day, most of the day, I can wake up and say, "Today I'm spiritually fit, and what can I do to help others to empty that out so that God can fill it in with more freedom and more hope and more joy and more love." And when I focus on those spiritual principles, everything else in the world is sorted. Rent's paid, and the car gets fixed when it breaks down, because they still break down. And amends are made when I argue with my partner. And amends are made with clients and with friends and everybody around me and family. All those things come, and all those steps become real. And I start living those steps in my daily life. And I haven't just done it in theory, but I had to write it down to focus that madness and put it in nice little ordered steps so that I could understand and have the opportunity to work it in my life. And now I'm starting to understand how to live these steps in my everyday life, and how much God blesses me in abundance because of that. So the light that I see today is so bright that I have to wear those snowboarding goggles, because the reflection is so bright, with unconditional love and hope continuously. Every day that I wake up is a new day in recovery. And every day is a new opportunity for me to become more spiritually fit and share my experience from the day before. Every day my story has an opportunity to survive another day. And it's through this program of Alcoholics Anonymous and through the people that are in it. That is the program. And God works through everybody around me, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I just want to say I'm really grateful to have shared, and I'm really hopeful that everybody in this room has a chance to find sobriety and to get that light of hope back in their lives, and to get that spiritual fitness that I know for me have lived my whole life trying to get. And thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Lord.